our latest White Pod. I'm Stephen Blaine, your host with White Labs, an e-commerce marketing agency. Today's guest, I have Randy. Randy, feel free to let our viewers know a little bit more about yourself and share a bit of your background.
Cool. Hey, everybody. It's good to meet you. My name is Randy Wells. I'm the founder, creative director of Rockridge, a Bay Area premium menswear brand that is really focused on providing wardrobe for today's entrepreneurs and creatives. And business has been around for 5 years, and we're continuing to grow and sort of part of this larger kind of cultural movement within the Bay Area of changing the way that men dress, specifically entrepreneurs.
Awesome. Well, what inspired you to start Rockridge?
It probably started from a very autobiographical place of not being able to find the things that I wanted, I think, in the market. My background, kind of comes from retail marketing design. And I think there was like a big shift that I saw, especially in the Bay Area, in terms of like how men were dressing and how I was dressing. And so I really kind of wanted to change it. And by changing it was that I wanted to create a line that felt a little bit more stylish, a bit more empowering, and also had the flexibility to kind of meet the needs of a dynamic environment that entrepreneurs typically work in.
Awesome. Well, tell me more about the brand and tell me more about the clothing and the brand. Go dive in as much as possible.
Yeah. All right. So, it's just like the brand started back in 26 years ago. So 20 minus 6, we can do the math. The name comes from a neighborhood in Oakland, California called Rockridge. So in my way, it's a bit of an Easter egg. I think to the outside world, it's just like a brand name, but within Oakland, like it's a neighborhood that I lived in at the time that I started the brand. And what I really was trying to do at the time was I feel like there's a big gap within this larger cultural conversation around fashion, and the Bay Area is not really part of it. And I think the perception that people have in San Francisco is just that we take ourselves so seriously that we don't really care about fashion. And so we sort of got defined as like the tech scene of people wearing t-shirts and jeans and Patagonia vests and kind of calling it a day. And so the mission behind the brand was to actually have a much more polished aesthetic and a much more stronger sartorial point of view that was sort of rooted in like this spirit of entrepreneurship. And I think what comes out of the Bay Area, whether it's Oakland or San Francisco specifically, is the idea of using business to sort of create new products, create new companies, but move the world forward in a more positive way. And so that's kind of like the bedrock and the DNA of the brand. From a product standpoint, we actually started with like a classic button-down shirt. And then from there, just like we, built our own hoodie, jackets, t-shirts, etc. that, sort of rooted in like our mission statement of never settle. So, which I think is a very entrepreneurial mindset.
For sure.
To create something new also requires you to never give up and constantly swimming upstream to sort of achieve your goals. And so I think that's kind of like the other sort of positive aesthetic of what the brand is about.
Awesome. You briefly touched on it, but who's your target audience?
So we target, is just like men as well as women that age from, 22 through 35 is kind of the sweet spot. We want to skew, younger as opposed to older, because that's just kind of where we feel like that real mindset of wanting to do your own thing, wanting to really sort of use fashion as a way to express your individuality tends to show up with younger people versus older people. And we're really focused on like that sweet spot because we just feel like a lot of the values that the brand stands for tend to resonate with that younger 22 to 35 cohort.
Awesome. What makes you different, or my favorite, what makes you better than your competitors?
Yeah. So what makes us better is just like the product in and of itself, like is a better made product at a much more reasonable price point. And there's a couple of ways in which we do that. Like one is just like I just don't believe that the best product has to be the most expensive, but how we select our fabrics, how we design our product, how we build it, the level of craftsmanship, the attention to detail, all of these little sartorial details is what really carries through. Secondly, is just like, I think that we are a brand that is reflective of a much more diverse mindset and targeting a much more diverse customer that I think gets ignored by other brands. And then secondly, is just like thirdly, everything that we do, even from a marketing standpoint, is rooted in giving current entrepreneurs as well as entrepreneurs who are starting out the tools and resources that they need to either start their businesses or move their businesses forward, which is also a bit core part of what we do is how do we build a community of entrepreneurs to ensure that they're going to be successful.
Awesome. What are your best-selling products?
It's the Prince of Wales zip hoodie is our top selling product, followed by a plaid button down shirt. And then our coach's jacket are like three key pieces that have been like our top sellers pretty consistently over like the winter and heading into spring. The other thing I would say too, when it comes to the brand is like the way the brand and the collection is built is meant for it to be worn in a lot of different ways. So you can always add on to it that if you're buying a t-shirt, you can also get a button down shirt, or you can accessorize it with a beanie, or you can put it in the jacket so that it layers together like really well. And, it's just like, I think what we've seen even from like a trend is, we'll have somebody go online and like they'll buy a t-shirt and then, 2 to 3 weeks later, they're buying a sweatshirt or they're buying a Henley or they're buying a jacket. So it's just like, those are kind of tells where it's just like the line is built for people to be able to like add to the collection where it could be worn together as a complete style and a complete look, or it could just be worn as a one-off piece.
Awesome. And your website for our viewers is rockridge.com. Okay.
Yep.
And are you in any retail?
Yeah, we will be on Macy's and Bloomingdale's starting in the summer.
Awesome. Congrats.
Our first big wholesale account. So it's just like the goal for this year is to really like grow the brand and make the brand more available to customers beyond just our website. And for people to also be able to have an opportunity to actually touch and feel the clothing within a retail environment.
Awesome. What are so most of our viewers are entrepreneurs, just like yourself with e-commerce brands. What are some challenges you faced in the last few years and how are you able to overcome them?
Good question. I think your biggest challenge is always managing your cash flow and also managing your inventory. I think in the last couple of years, the biggest challenge that we had was just coming out of COVID wasn't really an environment where people were trying to buy clothes because they weren't going anywhere. And so, it's just like, I think for us, like the pivot was we had to move away from selling button down shirts to more casual items like t-shirts. So it forced us to sort of expand our range of options like a lot faster than we were originally planned. And then two, we also had to pivot away from the traditional marketing that we were doing and sort of figuring out like, how do you build culture and community through content to be able to bring people together who otherwise couldn't be together. So those are some of the challenges that we had. One is just like, managing cash flow is always the most important. This is like a self-funded venture. So there's no outside funding. So, every dollar that you're putting into inventory or marketing, it has to drive sales. So when you're not driving sales, it definitely puts, a bit of a constraint on your cash flow in terms of how, you're able to like manage your business. And then two, I think we've done a really good job of actually creating community through content and, really kind of focusing on the needs of what our customers want, which ironically doesn't have much to do with fashion. It has more to do with, topics around entrepreneurship, access to capital, how to start a business, how to find a lawyer, how to structure your contracts, things of that nature have proven to be like much more effective. So that I think people tend to come to us more for the content around entrepreneurship, and then the product tends to be the thing that you buy because you want to be a part of what we're building. So we don't necessarily function like a traditional retailer.
Awesome. You've briefly touched on some activities in marketing. What are some successful activities you've done to promote the brand?
So over the winter, we had a holiday pop-up shop that we called the Holiday Residency, which was this really entrepreneurial, immersive retail experience. And it was a way for us to be able to have our product like in the hands of customers to be able to touch and feel it. But what we also did was lot of events like in the store to be able to raise awareness for the brand, to be able to identify and attract new customers, and also just a way for me to be able to meet people and kind of get a pulse check on like how people sort of interpret the brand, like the brand, etc. And that like proved to be really effective. Funny enough, every event that we did, it rained, which,
Wow.
had a significant impact on the number of people who came out. But the other thing that was also very telling was that, it's just like we've had a range of events from, concerts in the store, spoken word artists in the store, artists in the store. But the events that had the highest level of attendance were all of the different things that we had around entrepreneurship. So we've had talks by VCs that was well attended, just how to like reach out to a venture capitalist and get a meeting, or how to determine whether or not your business is venture capital ready. We also had talks with local incubators on getting access to capital or mentorship. And I think what I really discovered kind of doing these different events within the store is just that there's a lot of people that are still trying to figure out like how to get started. There are people that I met that are also trying to build their brands, and they're just trying to, figure out like, how do I find a factory, or how do I find a fulfillment center, or is there an opportunity for collaboration? You meet other entrepreneurs and they're looking for a co-founder. So what's interesting is just like, there wasn't a lot of people that were looking for access to capital. It was actually people that were looking for other resources. And the clothing is what sort of brought everyone together. And so I think it also just adds like a bit of depth to what the brand is about when you're offering more than just like well-made product.
So you kind of touched on, going into some retail now. What's your future plan?
I think the future plan is to continue to build the brand through wholesale as well as direct to consumer. For us, it's just like growing our volume as well as velocity is sort of key. And, whether it's a Bloomingdale's or other boutiques, it also gives us an opportunity to expand the brand. So from a product assortment, we're going to get into like pants, denim, a lot more accessories like socks and hats and beanies and things of that nature, so that the brand has a head to toe look, and then just creating more SKUs around that. I think that there's an opportunity for an even more elevated level of Rockridge using more premium fabrics like cashmere and leather and things like that. But I still say it's just like keeping the main thing is just continuing to build the brand awareness around who we are, what we stand for, what we're doing, and identifying the right partners that best represent what we stand for, and just building a bigger tent for the community.
Awesome. Great answer. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want our viewers to know about yourself and Rockridge?
I don't think so. We're here.
All right, exactly. All right, well, I appreciate you coming on, and thank you for your time.
Likewise. Thank you too, man. I appreciate it.